The Thirteenth Floor. The Thirteenth Floor is a 1999 science fiction neo-noir film written and directed by Josef Rusnak and produced by Roland Emmerich through his Centropolis Entertainment company. It is loosely based upon Simulacrum Minus 3 1964, a novel by Daniel F. Galouye, and a remake of the German TV film World on a Wire 1973. The film stars Craig Bierko, Gretchen Mol, Armin Mueller-Stahl, Vincent D'Onofrio, and Dennis Haysbert. In 2000, The 13th Floor was nominated for the Saturn Award for Best Science Fiction Film, but lost to The Matrix. Plot: in 1999 Los Angeles, Hannon Fuller Mueller-Stahl owns a multi-billion-dollar computer enterprise and is the inventor of a newly completed virtual reality VR simulation of 1937 Los Angeles, filled with simulated humans unaware they are computer programs. When Fuller is murdered just as he begins premature testing of the VR system, his friend and protege, Douglas Hall Bierko, who is also the heir to the company, becomes the primary suspect. The evidence against him is so strong that Hall begins to doubt his own innocence. Between interrogations by LAPD detective Larry McBain Haysbert, Hall meets Jane Fuller Gretchen Mol, the estranged daughter of Hannon Fuller, who is busy with the shutdown of the new VR system. Hall then romances her. When a local bartender is murdered after he claims to have witnessed a meeting between Hall and Fuller on the night Fuller was murdered, Hall is arrested. He is released when Jane gives him an alibi. With the assistance of his associate Vincent D'Onofrio, Hall attempts to find a message that Fuller left for him inside the simulation. Entering the virtual reality, Hall becomes a bank clerk named John Ferguson. Fuller left the message with a bartender named Jerry Ashton D'Onofrio, who read the message and discovered he is an artificial creation. Earlier, Ashton notices that Ferguson switched places with Hall in the men's restroom of the hotel where Ashton works, and began to realize that something was wrong. Frightened and angry, Ashton tries to kill Hall. Hall barely survives to escape the VR. McBain informs Hall that Jane does not exist, as Fuller never had a daughter. Hall tracks her down only to discover her double, Natasha Molinaro, working as a grocery store clerk, but Molinaro does not recognize Hall. This leads Hall to perform an experiment outside the VR system, something that Fuller's letter instructed him to try. He does so and discovers a point beyond which the world becomes a crude wireframe model. Hall grasps the revelation behind Fuller's message. 1999 Los Angeles is itself a simulation. Jane Fuller explains the truth to Hall. His world is one of dozens of virtual worlds, but it is the only one in which one of the occupants have developed a virtual world of their own. Jane Fuller lives in the real world outside the 90s simulation. After Fuller's death, she entered the virtual version to assume the guise of Fuller's daughter, gain control of the company, and shut down the simulated 1937 reality, a plan foiled by Hall being made the company heir. The virtual Hall is modeled after David, Jane's real-world husband, though Jane has since fallen in love with Hall. David committed the murders via Hall's body, being driven to increasingly jealous and psychopathic behavior from prolonged use of VR to live out his dark fantasies. Whitney enters the 1937 simulation, assuming the body of bartender Jerry Ashton, who has kidnapped Ferguson Hall's 1937 identity and bound him in the trunk of his car. When Whitney is killed in a car crash inside the 1937 simulation, Ashton's consciousness takes control of Whitney's body in the 90s simulation and takes Hall hostage. Hall tells Ashton that he is not in the real world and that they are both products of a VR simulation. Hall takes Ashton to the place where he was born, a computer lab. David assumes control of Hall again to kill Ashton and then attempts to rape and murder Jane. Jane is rescued by Detective McBain, who shoots and kills David. McBain at this point has realized the nature of his own reality and jokingly asks Jane, "So, is somebody going to unplug me now?" She answers no, so McBain follows with the request, "Look, do me a favor. When you get back to wherever it is you come from, just leave us the hell alone down here, okay?" David's death as Hall in the 90s simulation allows Hall's artificial consciousness to take control of David's body in the real world. He wakes in 2024, connected to a VR system. He disconnects the system and finds Jane and her father, the real Hannon Fuller. Jane wants to tell Hall more about the simulation, but as she begins, the film ends, the screen image collapsing to a thin line of light before going dark like a computer monitor being turned off. Cast: Craig Bierko as John Ferguson 1937, Douglas Hall 1999, and David 2024. Gretchen Mol as Natasha Molinaro 1999, and Jane Fuller 1999. Armin Mueller-Stahl as Grierson 1937, and Hannon Fuller 1999. Vincent D'Onofrio as Jerry Ashton 1937, and Jason Whitney 1999. Dennis Haysbert as Detective Larry McBain 1999. Shiri Appleby as Bridget Manila 1937. Leon Rippey as Jane's lawyer 1999. Riff Hutton as Joe 1999. Jeremy Roberts as Tom Jones 1999. Janet McLachlin as Ellen. Stephen Shub as Detective Ziv Bernstein. Allison Lohman as Honey Bear Girl 1937. Production: The 13th Floor was a co-production of Columbia Pictures and Centropolis Entertainment. Most of the film was shot in Los Angeles, California. Release: The 13th Floor was first released in Denmark on April 16, 1999, followed by a North American release on May 28, 1999. It grossed $11.09 million in North America and $18.05 million worldwide. The 13th Floor was released on DVD on October 5, 1999, and on Blu-ray on April 14, 2009. Reception: The 13th Floor received mostly negative reviews. Rotten Tomatoes, a review aggregator, reported that 30% of critics gave the film positive reviews, with an average score of 4.51/10, based upon a sample of 64 reviews, and the critical consensus bad script and confusing plot undermined the movie's impressive visuals. At Metacritic, the film received an average score of 36/100 based on 22 reviews. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of D+ on an A+ to F scale. Awards and nominations: